ja. Þá erum við orðinir. Þá erum við komin í gang eina fyrir enn. Alexandru hérna, hún ætlar að fara aðeins yfir Power Automate Desktop. Sýna taka nokkuð demo, sýna hvernig hægt að fylgjast með hvernig hægt að nota Power Automate Desktop til þess að gera það sjálfur sem ekki sjálfvirkt. Ég get að hafa þetta lengra. So I'm just going to switch over to Alessandra. Hi, Alessandra, and thank you for joining us again.
Hi, thank you very much for inviting me one more time. It's a pleasure for me.
Yeah, pleasure for us also. So you want to start by telling us a little bit about you and what you're about to show us?
Yes, my name is Alexandra Chorne. I work in Avanade, Norway, in CRM TC, we call it, talent community, working primarily with Dynamics 365 and Power Platform. So the new feature I'm going to talk today is actually super cool for me as a non-coder person. And I think the things we manage or should be managed doing in the future with the Power Automate Desktop are really awesome. So I'll just start sharing my screen right away.
Yeah, I think it's also pretty awesome because it helps really with the things you can't automate with API and stuff today. You may have old systems, and so it's really cool to do with the API part of the Power Desktop, Power Automate.
Yes, so RPA features of Power Platform. RPA market is developing extremely fast, and according to the Gartner, it's going to be $4 billion by 2023. And unfortunately for Microsoft, it was not there, so it couldn't stand missing the opportunity of IT giant being there. So the solution Microsoft came to is actually buying a company that, if you can see here, it is a strong performer, almost leader on the RPA market. So now Microsoft is combining their Power Automate strengths, that is automation of the cloud processes, with the automotive experience of the robotic process automation. So it looks like this product is going to be really strong and interesting to use. So what is actually Power Automate Desktop? In 2020 release Wave 2, Microsoft introduced this product to the public. It includes almost 400 different actions covering lots of user needs. So while most organizations are experiencing some form of digital transformation, they have their own pace and strategy. And in some cases, you may want to keep some of your older systems. And digital transformation is about allowing your organization to be efficient. And sometimes it means that you have to figure out how to integrate your old system into the modern system while still using the old ones. So with this critical idea in mind, the Desktop Automate was introduced, capability of the RPA in the desktop. Robotic process automation enables us to automate rule-based tasks, and we can do it with the legacy systems that don't have APIs. As you can see, it's almost 400 actions with absolutely different applications. We can, for example, transfer data from one legacy system to another. We can send emails. As for me, when I work with Dynamics, I have to test, for example, some of the capabilities we have written, and you can have to send lots of emails with only subject changed. And I had to sit and create every email. Now I can do it automatically with a prompt, just changing subject and send it as many as I want to. So here you can see the designer itself, Power Automate Desktop. It's a technology which allows us to build flow with a drag and drop way, or we can also use recorders, desktop recorder or web recorder. I will use actually both ways today, a bit of each. There are debugging features. We can use and reuse controls, images, and functions that are presented over here. We have error handling. It's also possible to extend capabilities of the flow with extra coding. We can also execute an attended and unattended mode. What I said about combination of cloud and on-premises applications, we can, for example, trigger our Power Automate desktop PDA from the cloud if you want to schedule it, for example, or trigger on some event. Very important, before we start working with Power Automate desktop, there are a few steps that have to be done. First of all, we have to install the application itself on the desktop, on the device. We have to install browser intention if we will automate some web actions. We have to install on-premises data gateways to be able to run desktop flows from the cloud. You don't need to do anything with the data gateways if you only will create, test, and run the application from the machine, your machine. But if you want to do some extra integrations, you will need it. And we also need to set up data flows and machine credentials. Cool thing that was just announced a few days ago on the Microsoft Ignite is Power Automate desktop is going to be free. So for now, we can download it without no extra license for Power Automation. And in the future, it will be even included in the Windows as a part of its build. To take advantage of Power Automate capabilities with the whole RP, cloud, and on-premise, there is an unlimited offer allowing users to use Power Automate and Power Automate desktop for $15 per user per month. I think actually it's pretty awesome. So now I'll go straight to my demonstration, I think. Do you see my screen now with the flows and everything?
Yeah.
Yeah. So here we start. We can install the Power Automate desktop itself and on-premises stuff. Everything I did it in advance, so not to waste time on that. So we go straight away and create a new desktop flow. What I'm going to do today, I want to simulate a business task of creating invoices in the company. For that purposes, I will use Contoso, that is actually Microsoft application to make simulations of this invoice creation. So the flow is going to be invoice creating. And I will launch the app. Here is my flow. We go and start creating the flow. Here we can see the designer itself. On the left side, we have action pane with all those 400 actions I have just talked about. It can be Excel or web automation. We can launch browsers. You can see it supports 4 different browsers. It's going to take a long time to go through all the actions, but there are lots of them. Over here, we have basic buttons like save, edit, create. 2 recorders, web recorder and desktop recorder. The workspace itself, where we'll see our flow. And on the right side, we have a pane with variables or our elements, pictures, everything that is going to be used by the flow. So we can see and edit things here as well. The first thing I want to do is start application. You can see the run application, drag and drop. Then I will just say which application I'm in. Save. Here we can already see that the first variable used in the flow is written over here already. So I will just start the application. And it's going to be easier for us to record everything that is going on in there. So when I say that all the steps I want to do, I will not drag and drop them. I want machine to remember what I actually do as a user. I click on recording. And after I start recording, Power Automate Desktop will try to get elements from my desktop. Sorry, those ones I didn't. Here you can see this Contoso invoicing app I was talking about with the very, very basic entities. We already, when machine is ready, or not machine, the application is ready to get my elements, we will see the red box around it. So it's very important to choose correct element to allow Automate Desktop to get that element. Sorry, can take some time, I'm sorry. I actually minimized everything, but it's still.
Yeah, the program sometimes not working with it.
Yeah, here it is. So I would have to delete this action later. Gone again. Application is very, very new. It's it was launched just a few months ago, so can be.
Yeah, I sometimes had that problem because I saw you deleted some actions, like that sometimes takes the focus away. If you restart the recording, it will be better.
Come on. Yeah, so I can maybe say in advance, while we are waiting to it to fetch the elements, we will create the invoice. We will have few variables in the invoice, which is account, contact of that account, and sum of money that will be in that invoice. I'm not sure, maybe I have to restart it. Yeah, here it is, invoice. And we can already see that the element, that action is recorded. Then we say that we will create a new invoice and start entering data. Let's say that the account is going to be Alex Co, contact, amount, invoiced, and we have to save our invoice. So this is actually basic operation that the user does, creating an invoice. Open, enter data, save. We finish this one. And when the designer opens again, we can see that all the actions are recorded in here. We can edit them. We can disable them, so we don't need to delete something if you want to check how it works without that precise action. So we hit save and just test our flow just to make sure that everything is recorded correctly. When the flow runs, we can see actions, steps performed one by one, invoices. The count was skipped for some reason. Edit text box. Yeah. Let's hope that it just skip it for this time. We can. I will try to create input and output variables to make it not hard-coded, but to allow variables being dynamic. So I create 3 input variables, which are gonna be first one count, default value. Let's change it. It was Alex score. Let's make it just to make sure that it will be different when we run it one more time. New variable amount. And let's make it $1,000. And one more we have left is contact. Which is the email we write down.
Creating these variables for the input you entered, so not always input the same action.
Yeah. And also one thing I want to add is every invoice has actually ID. So I want to be able to get that ID of new invoice. For this purpose, we will create a new variable. We say automation. We need to extract data from the legacy app. Get element from the window before saving it. Now we can choose which element we actually we mean. This is gonna be our ED. Over here. Yeah. Attribute value. Now I need to make sure that we set that that value is dynamic. It's not 160 every time. So I want to edit that one, that selector, and just double check that name is not equal to this number, because sometimes it can be checked over here. It's not, so we are lucky, we just close it. And we set our variables over here. I'm saying that that is going to be ID. And variable is the one we have just created. So when we go back here, we can see that we need to create that output variable. Okay. Yeah, invoice ID output and 3 input variables. What we need to do next is actually connect that text boxes to variables that we have created to let them be dynamic. We edit them and say that it's not Alex score anymore, but account. Is amount. No, sorry, it was not amount, it was contact. And this one is amount. Let's run the flow again and see if these variables will be parsed correctly. Save and run. Yeah. All the variables we have just created are set correctly into the application. Next step I want to do is make it a bit more complicated and connect Cloudflare with the on-premise flow. So we are going back to the cloud. And this time we create a Cloudflare that will trigger our on-premise flow. First time I will just use it very simple. It's going to be instant flow that we will click on the button and trigger the premise flow. Desktop. Great. And very, very easy. Just manually trigger the flow, and one action is to trigger the flow, run a flow build with a Pro Desktop. Over here, I have already connected all the data gateways. As you can see, it has been such a few attempts. That's very important that you do it in advance because it can be a bit tricky. The flow we're gonna write is run invoice creation, run mode attended. And this time we will change again the variables to make sure that we send data correctly from the cloud to the desktop. Let's say the account is going to be cola, for example, amount 2000 and contact. Click on save. And we will run our test. First of all, it's going to be manual trigger. Run. The idea here is it will launch the Contoso application, and the new invoice that is going to be created should be cola with $2,000. New invoice. Yeah, it works. Next step in making it even more complicated, we will trigger the creation of the invoice when email comes to us. So we will not, it will be totally automatic. We send an email with an attachment, system recognizes it and creates an invoice. Ideally, what I will do is that my artificial intelligence will read the email and then send the data in. But I will start with just triggering it with the email. To being able to use IE model in the flow, I have to create this new flow from the solution. So we cannot just do it from my flows. I have pre-created solution and start creating a flow from here. It's going to be a cloud flow. Which we're gonna call email of Automate Desktop, which will run when the email arrives from the Outlook, from in the inbox folder. It has to be email with the attachment, yes. Subject, let's make it a bit easier for the system, and we call it new invoice. And it has to be only with attachments. Yes. Next step, when the email arrives, we will launch the flow again. Same steps as previous time. Hit on save. And test. To test this flow, we actually need to do an action. And send the email. I have it. Email over here. Check it. Invoice, and it has to be attachment, otherwise it will not run. And send. We can double check if email has arrived. Not yet, but I hope so. Yeah, here is the email. So the flow has started running. Email arrived, the flow was triggered, and now we will observe our Contoso app creating a new invoice with a caller 2. Yeah. We are invoiced. Good. So next step is actually iBuilder. To be honest, I have created a model already because it takes some time. So usually you will start with building a model, but I will just show you the model which is written already. I have used the from processing model, which is used for which reads and saves information from standard documents. So I used 5 different documents to train my model, and I extract 4 variables from that document. Bill 2, which is our account, contact, email, and total for the amount. Then we go back to the solution. And we will change our flow that already exists with the steps, including iModel. We edit the flow. We delete this step, and instead of that one, we will say that we will use common data service and predict variables using IE model. The model we're gonna use is enter invoice information, document type, which is attachments content type. For every attachment we receive, we will actually look for the attachment content. And over here, we will also start the desktop flow. But this time, our content is gonna be dynamic. And we will say that account is our bill to value, our amount is total value from the IE model, and contact is contact value. Oh, not here, over here. Save. Test this one. I will send one more email with the invoice. This time I will use like invoice 4, for example. Just to make sure what will be created if we go to invoice 4. It's gonna be demo corporation for $4,900. We have received an email over here with the invoice. And now we should be able to see the flow running. Hope it was triggered properly. This is here. We did not get any errors on the flow checker. No system is here. I can maybe send one more just to be sure. This is a correct email. Mails are here. The subject is new invoice. Yeah, now the flow is running. It took some time, but it's here. So if everything works correctly now, then we will be able to extract data from the invoice that we have just received in our attachment to the email. And after extraction of the data, we will create a record in our legacy app, entering that data from the attachment. Demo corporation invoice. Yes. So it actually worked. We managed to connect our non-API legacy application to automation process. Next step we can do is, for example, send a Teams message to our users saying that you have actually received an invoice, for example, or we can send email back to the customer using the contact information from over here saying that we have sent 2 emails, so now it's 2 times running. We have received information from you, your invoice is registered in our system or something like that. So we can keep making the process more and more complicated and difficult and automated. Yes, that was actually faster than I expected, but that's what I had.
Yes, really great.
Today.
Yeah.
I can also see actually all the steps we have gone through. We have got new invoice ID, by the way, we have retrieved, it's 1065. When we started, it was 1050 something. So it is working, creating new invoices and new IDs, retrieving correct data and everything.
Yeah. I have a couple of questions here. If the computer is locked, does it still run?
If it is unattached mode, so it has to be a bot, and it's some extra costs.
If the computer is locked, so the computer needs to be unlocked, or
yeah.
If you would now, just press Control, lock your computer and go to lunch or something, and you get email during the lunch.
Yeah, I think that's what is unattended mode, because if you are not logged in, if you are not present.
No, yeah, I say if you're logged in, but just locked. No.
Oh, then I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. and can it run like on a, maybe you couldn't just like run it on a virtual computer so it doesn't interfere with when you're working? Or what is?
Yes, it is possible. It should work on Citrix and virtual machines, yes.
Yeah. So what would be the recommended way to do it? Would you just always run it site or have a special computer for it, or have you done it in the field somewhere?
Not yet.
No, okay, it's still new.
It is super new. You see, it still have problems retrieving fields and everything, but we are just learning and making proofs of concepts and stuff like that. So we have not used it yet on the real projects.
Yeah, I see a lot of possibilities.
We still, yeah, it's actually what I'm doing now is making the proof of concept for the client.
Yeah.
We're gonna present it only, so yeah, but it's not in work properly yet.
Yeah, thank you much. It's very nice to see, and it also worked very well. Yeah, and yeah, I don't see any more questions from the users, but yeah, I have just a couple of questions from people who wanted to watch the video later, so they were asking if there was a recording, and there will be a recording, so people can also watch it later.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, and I hope to see you again sometime.
Me too.
Yeah,
it's gonna be more and more for me to present. Maybe next time from the client, because as I said, now it's just proof of concept. So
yeah, a real world solution maybe.
Yes.
Yes.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Þannig sáum við Alexandru tala hvernig hægt að nota þetta. Þetta var náttúrulega bara demo og ég hef til dæmis pröfað þetta sjálf sem proof of concept að fara á vefsíðu, panta pítsu og svo alltaf með langra pítsu og getur bara rest flowið og þá færði þá panta pítsu fyrir mig. Þetta hefur marga möguleika og endilega ef það eru eitthvað spurningar geta þær skjóta þeim hérna inn, við reynum að svara þeim sem við getum.